Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Just to let colleagues know, because this is a public board, that Sam Riley and Nick Kroll, hi Sam and Nick, if you're there, you're observing us on the Making Data Count team, you may recall. And I'm sure Hugh will refer to Spudlin at some point, so.
Well, it's a challenge for me, Chair. There's a challenge.
Morning, Paul. Quickly on any apologies, please.
Apologies we have from Phil, Amin and Jelly Barney. Are there any other apologies that are recorded?
Doesn't look like it, okay. Any declaration of conflict of interest, colleagues? No, thank you. Then we'll move on to the minutes. Minutes of the Board of Directors on the 2nd of August. Do you want to move it to correct record?
Yeah.
Can I just note that I supplied an amendment to the minutes to Nick outside of the meeting, which I copied Paul into, which was around a question.
I've got those. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. We're happy to approve, take into account those. Okay, thank you very much. Item 84, any action sheet?
Yes, thanks, Mike. There are just 3 items that I want to draw your attention to. Arrangements are in hand to set up a meeting between Tabitha and Karen relating to maternity services champion work. Chris did meet with the non-executive directors to discuss arrangements regarding the integrated performance report, and the other report relating to health inequalities in maternity is captured on your agenda today. There are no other items to raise, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to item 85, patient story. If I could ask the Chief Nursing Officer to introduce this item and our guest speakers as well, please.
Thank you, Chair. Our patient story this morning is from Chris. She was supposed to attend today, but apologies in person. She's not managed to come here, so I'm going to introduce Annette Shepherd, our patient experience lead, to take us. Yeah, Annette is there. Has Chris attended?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Sorry, welcome. Annette gave me the message that you won't be able to come, so you really are welcome, and thank you so much for attending in person. So Annette will lead us through the story. Thank you.
Just before you do, we just want to welcome as well Alison, Brenton and Claire Caldwell. Welcome, welcome to the board. I'm sure you'll come in on this item when it's relevant, but welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Over to you.
Who's here?
Who's speaking first?
Annette.
Annette.
Yeah, she's there. She just needs to come in off mute.
Hello, Annette. We can see you. You're on mute. Just hang on a few minutes, colleagues. Okay, Annette, while you're trying to sort out your issue there, don't worry, don't get stressful or anything. Just take your time. I'm sure we'll come through.
Yeah.
Are you there now?
Hi. Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody had put me on mute. I thought it wasn't me. It was. I thought it was Nicola possibly. Okay, sorry. I've obviously just missed the last couple of minutes of the meeting. But if we're ready to go with the patient story, I will get ready to present in Teams. One moment. So I'm assuming Tabitha's done her narrative.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that, Tabitha. I'm taking the papers as read for this agenda item, and for today's patient story, we will hear from Chris Parkinson about her diagnosis of long COVID and a recent rehabilitation journey whilst being supported by the COVID rehabilitation team at University Hospitals of Morecambe Bay. Chris is on the Teams call today, as Tabitha has just mentioned, and she's here supported by Alison Brenton, Specialist Respiratory Occupational Therapist, and Claire Caldwell, Community Occupational Therapist. I will now play a voice recording from Chris. One moment.
We can't hear sound here, unfortunately.
Just pause that. The sound bar's on and you should be receiving sound, so I'm not so sure what's happened there.
Annette, when you've shared your presentation, there's a thing to tick that says share audio.
If I could help here, I think what I'm seeing on the screen is an option to play. So when I click that play button, Chris is starting to speak. So I don't know whether this is a nuanced technology for me. So I just played around and clicked on it and it started playing. So maybe someone in the boardroom needs to play that so everybody can hear.
Okay, because it is playing on Teams.
Yeah.
Okay, our backup team will no doubt be scrabbling in the background to sort this out.
You're the king.
And then don't worry about this. I'm very relaxed with IT, very comfortable with internet access and things. So
I'm glad you are.
we'll just take our time. I don't mind it.
Squirrels, eh?
Squirrels. Maybe a squirrel. Who knows?
I'm just wondering if to try it a different way.
Yeah, now if you've got an option there, just try that.
Yeah. Oh, it won't let me stop presenting now. All right, okay, here we go. Let's try the other way. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this way.
My name is Chris Parkinson.
Yeah, we just need to raise the volume.
Called Ray.
I can't do anything with the volume, I'm afraid.
That's all right. We'll try this side. Don't worry.
You've got access to lots of exciting outdoor adventurous stuff like canoeing and walking and cycling and running, and basically it's a fantastic adventure playground for me. And that's why we moved from Scotland to the Lake District. I have a family, 3 children. They're all teenagers now, and I'm married. And
sorry.
Yeah, I've got a big garden that I love and enjoy spending time in. I also work, so I'm pretty busy. I fill my time outside of work with lots of fun stuff, but I also work as a teacher, and also this job allows me to encourage and inspire children to go out and do walking, and that's basically my teaching job, is to run the outdoor ed side of the curriculum, which I do and did for 4 days a week prior to having COVID. Love my job, it's absolutely brilliant. I love the team of people I work with. I really, really love my life. Really feel very lucky to have to live in this beautiful area. So last year, really unfortunately, in January, I got COVID, and it really changed my life. Very, very, very difficult time. I got COVID in January last year, and I thought that I'd get over it pretty quickly. I was expecting to go on a skiing holiday, really excited. It was my son's 13th birthday, and it was my husband's 50th birthday, and we were having a celebration going away, and that was in February. But unfortunately, I was so ill a month after having had COVID that I just didn't manage to make it. And unfortunately, it just got worse and worse, and I got the energy that I'd had before was no longer there. So it was a matter of time. And I went to the GP saying, what's going on? Please give me something to help me. Can you give me some drugs or something to get me the energy back? I'm so not, I don't know what's wrong with me. And they referred me, they said, we think that you've got long COVID, and referred me to the long COVID team, rehab team. And for me, that was a game changer. Again, a GP has 5 minutes. The COVID rehab team have time, and they listen and they support you. And it was honestly incredible to know that there were people that actually knew that this was a real illness, and you were that they were there to help and support you. So that was just incredible. Really, really grateful for the support. And they held my hand and they supported me, and I had phone calls and visits, and when I didn't know where to turn, they were there, and Claire was there. So I really think that it's been, for me, it's been a long journey. 18 months of having had COVID and long COVID has not been easy. I had to give up I had to reduce my hours at work. I was a scout leader. I had to leave that position. I had to leave everything but the very basics in life, and just focus on recovery. Changed my diet, changed everything. But all the way through, I had the support of the COVID rehab team, and I'm totally grateful for everything they've done. I'm now, thankfully, I'm just back. I'm not even at my house. I've been helping my dad. At the moment, I've got the energy to help him, and I've got the energy. I've been interrailing for 3 weeks in Europe, just back from that, and I did it. And I'm swimming again. I'm doing triathlon training. Hope to do a triathlon in the autumn. And yeah, but it's taken time, and the support that I've had from the recovery service has been outstanding. So I just hope other people get an opportunity to use this service, and I want to say just a massive thanks for that, and long may my energy continue, and yeah, maybe I'll run another marathon soon. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you, Chris, for that. So does anyone have any questions?
Colleagues? Tabitha?
Mine is just to sort of say thank you so much, Chris, for that. Normally we hear negative stories about what we've done and something we learn. And this one, it's amazing to hear about the recovery services and the support they give you. And I hope you're feeling okay today and tomorrow, and you continue to get better. And I just want to thank Claire, Alison, and all your teams for everything you've done to support Chris and to support everybody else you support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Aaron?
Hi, Chris. My name's Aaron Cummins. I'm the Chief Executive here at the Trust. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk the board through your journey. But I've got a question, if it's okay. So I still have lots of conversations with colleagues and patients about the impact of COVID, long COVID as it's called, and the various symptoms, because they're not all the same. I think it would be really powerful for us to be able to use your story with some of the patients that are going through similar journeys to you, just as a bit of a reflection of your experience, and even over time that things are starting to improve. Because I know that the conversations I have, there's a real worry that things won't, that this is their kind of new reality. And for lots of patients, I think, who are using the rehab service, whilst it takes a long time, there are improvements to be made. So would that be okay if we used your story in some of our kind of patient communications?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I completely understand that feeling of thinking you'll never get better. So yes, I'm very happy for you to do that. I'll be delighted. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
And the question for me, and if it's all right, might be aimed at Alison and Claire, or maybe even some of the exec. Do we know how many of our caseloads have long COVID? And do we know how many patients with long COVID in percentage terms? What is the percentage of everyone that got COVID that we treated have gone on to have long COVID?
I mean, it's a bit tricky because I think that's varied over time. We know that if we extrapolate the sort of ONS data in Morecambe Bay, we'd expect about 11,000 people to have long COVID, and that number is increasing, partly because, you know, long COVID is still going on. You don't have to have COVID very badly to develop long COVID. So although some, you know, some of the accounts that we're seeing are COVID is less aggressive, you know, it's less, people are having sort of much less acute symptoms, they still have that potential to go on and develop long COVID. So actually the numbers are going up rather than down in terms of long COVID. And we're still seeing patients, we're still treating patients that caught COVID in 2020. So, you know, the needs change, the symptoms will change over time, and there are over 230 different symptoms related to COVID that we've recognised now in sort of patterns that are coming through. So over time, people you get sort of relapsing, remitting long COVID as well, where somebody can suddenly wake up with a whole raft of different symptoms. So it's not an easy treat. The patients that we're seeing are really complex, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, thank you. Just to make the board aware, really, that this would probably be a growing population that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll go Liz, Sarah, Karen.
Thanks, Mac. Thanks, Chris, and the team for bringing this story. You touched, Chris, on the emotional support. I assume that was a really important thing, that not only with helping you physically with the symptoms and the rehabilitation from the physio team, you talked about a lot of emotional support. Could you just sort of tell us about how important that was?
It's really difficult to talk about, actually. It's just really, really difficult when you've got long COVID and people just don't believe you or think there's somebody here who's had more energy and has so much energy, and then suddenly you are flat and you can't get out of bed and you can't do everything you usually do. And to have people supporting you and believing in you and being, it's like it's a support network that it's so valuable and so important, and has been for my recovery, to know that there's somebody there. Because a lot of the time people say, your time's up now, you've had your 10 minutes of chatting. If you go to the GP, I know they're very pushed. With this team and the support that I have had from the COVID recovery service, it has helped me so much, both to get to prioritise what I need to do, how I can get through my day, how I can get through tomorrow, to have some hope. And it's been so important. I cannot value it. It has been so important for me when things were so difficult, and I really do think it's incredible service, and I hope that you continue to do your good work, because it's about well-being. It's about the whole body, emotional and physical, and getting you through it. And as you say, it's very complicated. Everybody's different, but I'm just really grateful for all the support that I've had from the wonderful team. You've really helped me. So can I just say a massive thank you? And now I don't need any support from the NHS, hopefully, and I can go forward, and I'm feeling brilliant. So massive thank you for all that support.
Can I just pick up two of those points. I think validation, I think, Chris, validation is something that we, you know, that need for validation, particularly in this time when the media would like to move on, the government would like to move on, you know, recognising those long COVID symptoms, I think is incredibly important. And I think I've forgotten what the other point was. Yeah, no, sorry, it's eluding me. But yes, that validation is massive, you know, and I think that need, that ongoing need is important. And the other thing I was going to say was about, you know, if we don't treat people with long COVID, they will become part of our long-term condition population. I'm completely convinced of that, and that, you know, that's something that has to be considered when we're thinking about the future of long COVID services.
Thank you. If your other thought comes back, Alison, just jump in.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think that was it. I think it was about that link with sort of long-term conditions.
Thank you. Alison and Claire, we may have met actually when Mike and I came and visited the team actually about a year or so ago, and so acknowledge obviously you're part of our community services team, and I think I wanted to first of all say thank you to Chris, because it's clearly been a real journey that you've been on, so really appreciate you sharing it, and just want to really acknowledge the work that Alison and Claire and colleagues do in community services, and really that need to really think about and learn from the models of care which are going to be part of our transformation, I think, as we go forward. And if there's anything we can learn from and bottle from your experiences of how you're working with other colleagues in other care groups and also with other community services, I think that'll be really powerful. Thank you.
Karen?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your experience, and it's really prompted a thought for me. It's brilliant to hear your story, Chris, about your recovery and how life is going forward, but it's really made me think about all of those people for whom long COVID might be part of a pattern of other illness or other lifestyle issues, and I'm just wondering how having long COVID might impact on people's journeys through other clinical pathways. So if you have a stroke and you've already got long COVID, or if you have surgery and you have long COVID, how that might impact on other pathways and how we might better factor that into some of our planning. It really links with Sarah's transformation question and how we can best share that learning organisationally. I'd really value your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sorry.
Go on, Alison.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's a really interesting question, and I think what we also see a lot of is patients who will see a GP and they'll go down a very different pathway. They might have sort of issues with what we would term brain fog, but they'll go down a neurological pathway, or they'll go down, the breathlessness will take them down a respiratory pathway, or the cardiac issues will take them down a cardiac pathway, when actually, you know, very often there isn't an answer at the end of that except to say, well, this person has long COVID, and their long COVID symptoms that are known. And I think the thing that comes back to us very frequently is that feedback, that holistic assessment, treating somebody for all of those symptoms rather than sort of dividing it up into lots of, you know, different appointments, different pathways, which don't necessarily have the answers at the end of them. It's a bit like disappearing down a rabbit hole sometimes, is really, really important. And I think that's one of the things that we realised right from the very start, that the holistic overview is really, really important for somebody with long COVID.
Thanks, Alison. I'm going to take one more point from Carrie. Hugh, I'll come to you after that then, but we're just conscious of time. So Carrie and then Hugh, and then if that's all right, I'll close this item. Carrie?
Yeah, thank you. Mine's just a question for Chris. In terms of the referral process, from the point that you saw your GP, I just wondered what the journey was like and how long you waited to be seen, whether that was smooth or not.
I was really lucky. I've got a great GPs and they were really quick to refer me. And I think I was seen within about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And I do apologise, I have blocked out a lot of my memory because it was such a difficult time. But it was really, the GP was straight, I think you've got long COVID, we're going to refer you. And honestly, getting that phone call from Claire was one of the best things for me. It was the validation and the immediate support from there on, knowing that there was a group of people helping me. So it was a really quick process. My GP is a very, very positive and supportive GP, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm not sure that everybody gets the same service, but yeah, Bentham GPs definitely get a thumbs up from me. So yeah.
Thank you.
It was quick.
Okay.
Alison, there's a question for you, following on from your last statement. I'm Hugh Reeve, I'm a semi-retired GP. The issue about disappearing down rabbit holes. So I'm just wondering about how integrated your service is with, because obviously people either may come to you, people come to you when they have a suspicion of the long COVID, but they have specific respiratory or cardiac symptoms. How easy is it for you then to access the other parts of the trusted services that may actually benefit them? Because and how easy is it for the respiratory team, for example, to access you if they get to the point that they've got to the end of their path and they think there's not a lot I can do for you, but you need actually different support. So I'm wondering, well, does that all have to go back to the GP? Because in our organisation, it should be all integrated. And so how does that work? Because is that something we work on?
Yeah, I mean, in order for us to accept a referral, because we're basically a therapy nurse-led team, the GP will have had to have done some investigations to rule sort of other conditions out so that we know we're dealing with COVID. Often simultaneously there may be ongoing investigations, and I'm not saying it's wrong to go down those pathways, because we do need to ensure that that other conditions are treated where they can be treated, and we know that COVID will cause some of those conditions. So it's a little bit of a tricky one. In terms of integration, we're very much, because our access is mainly via EMIS and shared EMIS records, we're kind of dependent on those letters that come back from secondary care into primary care. So I think you're right, probably there is some room for better integration. And we are more than happy to accept referrals from consultant teams, from other services, as long as those patients have had those investigations to rule out anything that might be masked by COVID symptoms.
So do you have examples, therefore, of people who haven't come to you from specialist teams but have ended up being delayed by going back to their GPs and then coming back to you? Is that something we could work on as an organisation?
Quite possibly. We do have patients where, particularly sort of, I suppose, in the early days of COVID, where the tests the cardiac tests that we're doing don't show anything other than the fact that they don't show, they'll come back normal, and then the patients, the GP will say to the patient, well, they're normal. And they're still saying, well, I'm having palpitations, or I've got my heart rate is experiencing dysregulation. So we do, it is a very sort of loop process sometimes, simply that we make sure we're not missing anything. So, but I think there is room probably for more integration there. For example, we were picking up a lot of sleep apnea. When we started to look into sort of breathlessness and people's sleep as part of COVID. So we're picking up the sleep apnea, we're doing the Epworth scale, we're measuring people's necks, and then we're sending it all back to the GP rather than being able to go to clinical investigations and say, this patient has sleep apnea. And all that was happening was the GP was sending that information to clinical investigations. And it's those sorts of things, I think, that we have ironed some of them out. We now do refer directly to clinical investigations for some of those tests. But I think there are still occasions where there is delay in the process simply because we don't have access except through the GP.
Thanks, Alison.
Clearly work to be done. Thank you.
Chief Exec?
It's just to catch that. So we've got, the board will be aware, we've got a couple of key programmes of work now that we're progressing. One is the clinical strategy and our clinical improvement work that follows from that. And the second is the digital transformation with our new electronic patient record programme. So I think, Hugh, Alison, you've drawn out, using a very specific example around long COVID, about how we make integration a practical thing, not a signal of intent or a strategic theme. And I think when we start to look at pathway redesign, how do you make it as smooth as possible for professionals and patients to get to the right part of the system quickly? I think this is a theme for us. So if it's okay, Chair, I'll ask the executive team to pick up through clinical strategy development and EPR development, this pathway flow, the workflow for patients where we know we've got, I'll call them handoffs or pass-through issues that are creating some delays or potential frustrations. I think it's a really good theme we'll pick up, Chair.
Can I ask just ask another question, really? I mean, one of the things that's happening in a lot of the other ICPs is that they're beginning to look at sort of self-referral to COVID systems. Obviously, for us, there are issues around these investigations to rule out secondary diagnoses, but they're getting around that by using the sort of independent investigation units that are sort of being developed in communities. And I'm wondering whether that's something that is likely to happen where in our community, or whether we are still going to be reliant on going back to the GP for those investigations and going that way.
Okay.
So I think we are and do have plans for community diagnostic hubs in all the area, and there's certainly the ability to do a lot of those. I don't know what all your investigation suite is, but I would imagine that there's the ability to do most of those there. I think it's just how we describe that there is no reason that we can't have self-access for certain things. And we may have to describe different scenarios, but I think that's something that your team and the improvement teams can certainly work on, and we'll work with primary care on it. So it makes complete sense.
Brilliant.
Okay, colleagues, thank you. Thank you, Chris, Alison, Claire. It's good to see some of you again, actually. As you say, Sarah, we met you a while ago. Annette, thank you for the introduction and helping us with the IT as well. Really good item. Chris, we wish you the best of luck. I hope your recovery continues. Good luck with that marathon if you get to it.
Oh, that's all.
Chief Nurse, anything you want to add? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, colleagues, if we move on then, item 86, Chair's report. You have it in front of you. Happy to answer any questions. No, can I ask that be accepted? Yeah. Great. Chief Exec's report. Over to you.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of key items for me. As normal with my CEO's report, a couple of the agendas in there picked up elsewhere on today's agenda more fully, so I won't go through those in any detail. I'm going to start off, as I tend to do in these briefings, with a thank you to our teams. Again, over what's been quite a difficult summer period, we've seen, again, impact of industrial action. It's the traditional period for us anyway in Morecambe Bay where we see higher kind of activity through urgent care because of the kind of tourist impact. And I just wanted to say something about industrial action, Chair, if I may, for a minute. Our organisation, our leadership teams have become very adept and very good at the planning, the management and the delivery of services under disruption, and they should rightly be kind of praised and have that reflected back to them. But we need not to keep referring to that as it's become business as usual, because it absolutely hasn't. It absolutely hasn't. The disruption to service, the amount of work that our support teams, particularly service managers and clinic leads, trying to reschedule and contact patients, and then the impact on patients, some of whom are delayed only a matter of days and weeks, but it's still a delay and a disruption to their lives. And also the inability to book patients that we would have been booking through those slots. It is a significant impact. So I just wanted to say thank you to those colleagues, both for those that are managing the industrial action, but for those that are helping to recover, repair and liaise with patients to get it back on track. We've had another notification of industrial action later in September. Again, it's escalative. This is junior doctors and consultants at the same time, providing what is described as Christmas Day cover, which we can say a little bit more about this afternoon when we catch up. But I just wanted the board to be aware that whilst this feels like something we are managing appropriately, and we are, I don't want board colleagues to underappreciate what happens in order for that to happen and the impact on patients and colleagues. So again, we'd call on those colleagues that have responsibility to try and get to a resolution here to do that as quickly as possible, because it is impactful. I needed to say that, Chair. One bit of news to pick up is our CQC report. It's being now published last Wednesday. We spent quite a bit of time going out with colleagues, kind of briefing on the detail. The full report's been circulated. We've asked all teams, regardless of whether they were part of the inspection or not, to consider the themes and the areas of improvement or good practice that have been highlighted in that report, and through their own improvement work and their own care group and corporate infrastructure, to take forward any developments they feel are necessary to make sure that if they were inspected, they'd make sure they've taken advantage of the feedback that we've had from the CQ through this inspection. There will be a more fulsome report on the actions required to address any outstanding issues in that report that will come through Quality Committee, and then will be informed to board in the next cycle of business. The report, we've said before, is a really good reflection of the effort and the leadership and the improvement work that's been done over about 2 years here under the recovery support programme and the intensive support work we've completed. So I'm pleased to see that reflected. I'm pleased to see the movement on well led to requires improvement. I am delighted and will call out our medical leadership team in Bongi, Paul and Mel, and in our women's and children's leadership team with Linda and Paul and Heather and Elaine and Claire. In an environment of real pressure, to see medical services rated good overall across all sites, and maternity in particular to improve their rating with some areas of outstanding practice, I think a testament to the leadership in those areas. And it's rare that I'll draw out individual teams, but it's important for me that they get the recognition. In addition to our governance and assurance team, under Angela and Richard's leadership and the contributions from Tabitha and Bridget before, again, that work that we've done under well led on assurance and risk, it's all reflected in the report. What this will do, Chair, is will be incorporated into our composite improvement plan, the SOF 3 to SOF 2 improvement work that we're now developing in anticipation of our SOF 4 review in October, and the board will have full sight of that in its next cycle of business, so we can see the cause and effect of improvement and where we think that'll take us on those trajectories. Another piece of information to share with the board. Colleagues will be aware, obviously, of the verdict in the Countess of Chester case. The themes that have come out from that, we will all be considering as leadership teams over the coming weeks and months. I know there are some national conversations, particularly around the narrative around regulations for leadership and management, which will contribute to. The most important actions we've taken immediately are to make sure that colleagues are aware of the themes that have come out of that, and we attach it to any work that we're taking forward in our improvement programmes. That we've gone out and reiterated the importance of raising concerns, dealing with complaints appropriately, dealing with incidents appropriately, and encouraging all colleagues in any fora to raise any issue they feel they need to, and it will be listened to and responded to. And we know we still have more work to do that effectively, albeit the last few years we've had, I think, some good experience in things like urology, trauma and orthopaedics, that we've demonstrated that we're able to do that effectively as an organisation in our current form. We've also made sure through the leadership teams that for those colleagues working in the neonatal services, there's been some additional support, just a conversation about how they're feeling to make sure that they're okay. So that's as much as I wanted to say about that particular piece of news, but it's important that we recognise that the themes in there we need to be cognizant of in our improvement work. Last 2 points from me. We did mention at the last board around the changes of leadership. So Kevin McGee will leave the system at the end of September. I will pick up the lead chief exec's role for the private collaborative from the 1st of October. And the appointment for Kevin's replacement at Lancs Teaching, I think the interviews are due to complete on the 28th of September. So we'll know new leadership in the system at that point. We can brief colleagues and make some introductions for new leaders in the system at that point. My final point, Chair, is a bit of public announcement. So colleagues will be aware we've done something different with our patient safety and assurance teams in the last 12-18 months in our patient safety days. I think this will be the third one on Thursday, the 14th of September. The last couple, we've had some internationally renowned speakers to come and share their learning and their reflections with our teams. Our teams have had the opportunity to share their own work. It's been fantastically well received. So Thursday, the 14th of September. The theme is high reliability. It's running from 9 till 4:30 via Teams. If colleagues want to dial in, it's on our intranet site for a web link if you want to come watch these speakers. And to give you a flavour, we've got speaking chair, we've got Dr. Henrietta Hughes, internationally renowned patient safety lead. We've got Alison Leary, we've got Professor Robert Galloway. So these are the kinds of individuals that we've got now coming to talk to our teams about patient safety improvement. So if you can and you're available, you don't have to stay for the whole day. You can dip in into specific sessions if you want to, but I'd encourage colleagues to do that, Chair. I think that's as much as I wanted to pull out.
Thank you. Any questions on the chief exec's report? Adrian, then Karen. Adrian.
Thank you, Chair. I've got three questions. So the first is about the Countess of Chester, and just really, what's our position on that? Are we assured that historically our systems have been robust enough to pick up any potential issues? Are we confident that going forward our monitoring arrangements are fit for purpose, just in anticipation of any reviews? And I can see there's nothing there, so I don't know if you want to add anything to my question at that point.
It was absolutely my question, Adrian. So yeah,
well, I can share that one then.
Follow up. Yeah.
So we're fortunate, Adrian, that we've obviously focused in this area as part of the recovery support programme. So we've had the Freedom to Speak Up Guard in the national team in doing a peer review. We've done another organisation peer review, and we've taken forward lots of improvements in our incident reporting, incident panels, the way we share lessons learned, the way we deal with complaints. So I think we've got a good evidence base of improvement and current assurance around our infrastructure. In the past, I think it's clear as a board, we've had lessons to learn there because that's played out in our urology and trauma and orthopaedic work, but we've done that in the visibility of the board and the improvement work has informed the recovery support programme. This is an area that I've asked in particular that we focus our audit programmes on around effectiveness. So I'm expecting the audit committee and the quality committee to have oversight around the continual check and challenge and assurance around the effectiveness of that infrastructure. So I'll make that point again. I'm expecting that to feature in those four as part of our own assurance work. The one area that I think we've still got more to do is in our complaints processes and to make sure that we are responding to those in a timely way, but the quality of how we investigate the complaint and the work that follows, not only to satisfy the complainant, but to take improvement work forward. I know Tabitha has a particular programme of improvement that we've seen on the back of the CQC report as well, for example. So I think we're in a good position. I think that's fortunate because we've had 2 or 3 years worth of focus and improvement work in this area. I want to make sure that our governance processes are supporting us in that check and challenge and periodic effectiveness review. And I think complaints is the area, Chair, where we need to do more to improve. And I know there's an improvement programme due to complete at the end of October, Tabitha, which I can bring back to board for assurance.
October, thank you.
That was question one.
That was question one, sorry. The second one was the really interesting few paragraphs there about the NHS protecting and expanding elective capacity, particularly set against the backdrop that you outlined against the industrial action. And I note that it's for the board to agree to delegate the initial decision making to F&P. And I know, interestingly, it's about the actions and the process and not the agreement of any targets. And I just wondered if there were going to be any targets that may emerge and whether they would be agreed by the board, because obviously set against that background of industrial action, any targets that we agree to are obviously subject to a degree of scepticism really about whether we can deliver on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the national targets, but I'll just ask Scott to say a bit more about the programme.
I think that's the answer. And the national targets are sacrosanct, obviously, and we're locked into those for this year. The protecting capacity, there's lots and lots of technical measurements within that around when we validate, when we book, that will be held to subsets of the national targets that aren't manifest in the IPR because they're too technical, too complex and too numerous. So I guess what we've been asked for is an assurance that we are cited on those subsets of the targets and that our longitudinal booking processes are being pushed to kind of top quartile performance. So we're able to provide evidence of that based on data and our performance over the last 12 months and the emerging plans. That answers the question.
So
the national targets are the
The
targets.
national targets are the targets. We're not going to end up with a second layer of targets that we're going to be held to account
It's an
for.
extra level of assurance about how are you assured that those national targets are being managed effectively, which is in the booking processes targets we're now asked to measure.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure there's going to be no additional targets. Thank you. That's what I was seeking. And then the final one was about RAC. And I was just asking for your assurance that that position is understood, and just for your guidance about how we were going to communicate that internally and externally.
That's later down in the agenda, if I can speak to the chief. We've got that under any other business. We've got a particular report on that. Okay, Karen, then Liz. Or Karen, have you had your question answered?
Could I just ask a little bit more detail following on from Adrian, if that's okay, please? I focused on the deeply sad circumstances of Countess Chester. Clearly there's going to be an independent inquiry. Clearly there will be recommendations that flow from that, and it's great to know that the work around freedom to speak up and supporting staff has been strengthened. My question relates more to data. So, you know, we look back at that and we kind of think, actually, it looks like there was a pattern that could have been spotted much sooner and wasn't. How confident?
Sorry, Karen, are you referring to the Countess? Okay,
sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. There's a pattern now, retrospectively, that feels like it could have been spotted sooner. It's kind of like, how confident are you, essentially, as an exec team, that a pattern like that would be spotted? And I ask that because at board and at quality committee and at maternity safety champions, we see the maternity safety dashboard, we hear about PMRT, we're kind of really well cited on that pattern. Does the same apply to the neonatal data?
Yeah, happy to take that one. We can be as confident as we can be, Karen, because some of these things, you know, but we do have governance structures in place. For example, we have our executive review meetings where we would expect incidents to come through. Through that, we then have like a triangulation of freedom to speak up themes, incidents coming through to see if there are any thematic things coming out of it. And with the niche recommendations and reports, we are actually, I'm proud to say, we have got colleagues on the patch asking us about our governance processes because they're quite effective. But that doesn't mean to say we don't have to look and review again based on what's come out of the Lucidate. So I am confident to say the structures we've got in terms of our governance, reporting and monitoring is effective.
Just check. Heather, is your hand up because you're responding to Karen's question here? Welcome, by the way.
Thank you, Chair.
But specifically around neonatals, this question.
Yes, I just would like to add from a care group perspective, obviously we monitor our perinatal and early neonatal mortality really closely. I've asked for a review of neonatal data in terms of what's monitored, who has oversight, and benchmarking it against regional statistics. Obviously, we receive an neonatal ODN report every month that benchmarks us against the local other providers as well. To reassure the board, we've got a new governance lead in place just for children's and young people, and we've also got a new quality improvement post, particularly for neonatal services, that is ODN funded. We've recently amended our complaints process so that it's more robust and timely. And if we have any concerns around themes or concerns that we don't feel could be investigated internally, we do access external investigators to maintain that objectivity and other oversight as well. I just thought that was a useful addition for the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. That's really useful. The board is a meeting held in public. It's not a public meeting, but it is held in public. So forgive me, I didn't say this at the beginning. Acronyms, please explain acronyms. So ODN, just for those who don't know, please.
Yeah, that's the neonatal operating delivery network. So it's a bit like the LMS, but for neonatal services.
LMS?
Local maternity service, sorry, system.
Okay. Thank you. Couldn't have made that up.
Thanks, Mike. Aaron, you, I was really pleased to hear you mention that you reached out to the teams working with neonatal to just check that they were okay with all the attention with obviously this very emotional and very difficult case. Have we put anything in place for patients and families that will have lost a baby? Because again, with all the attention, it can trigger back feelings. And we heard from Chris how important that emotional support is.
So in our statement that we put out, we have said if anyone's concerned about anything, then please make contact either through the unit or PALS so we can support in the same that we've targeted and gone in with neonatal teams in our communications that you may not have seen gone out. There's an ask there to say actually if any colleagues feels impacted on this at all, then please make contact with either occupational health or your service manager for a conversation. So insofar as we can give that assurance, then the offer is there for colleagues to or patients to make contact if they need to.
Yeah, I was thinking mainly of patients, but
thanks, Liz. Good point. We talk about data a lot, but it's people really. Tony?
Yeah, back to where we started, Aaron, which was about the industrial action, and totally agree with your comments about the impacts. And it's on the back of that, in some constituency conversations with governors yesterday, which the chair was also at, there was discussion about that very issue, and particularly in the area of cancers, for example, as an example. So it's a difficult message, but it's how we can reassure both prospective patients, but also inform governors that, look, this is having an impact, but within these measures and means, we're trying to do the best we can in terms of identifying individuals, support individuals through this process. I don't know if you've got a view on that, in whether there's more we could do, or if there's work that's already been done that maybe governing body members don't quite.
Jane and Scott might come in here as well, but our approach always is to make sure that for things like trauma, access to urgent care, cancer, we're protecting as best we can that infrastructure. Yeah. But Scott or Jane?
I was going, from a clinical point of view, actually, in many ways, COVID helped us because we developed a lot of clinical prioritisation sort of methods, and that's how our teams do it. So they'll come and say to cancel 10 patients, and of those, there is a question, are any of those priority 2, which is the cancer, priority 1 being emergency, cancer or very urgent for any reason, and they are the absolute priorities for us to maintain activity on and go stepwise with that from that clinical point of view.
Yeah, no, I'll cover it maybe in IPR later. What we are doing is prioritising, as Jane says, the cancer and long waiting patients. But there's a significant impact. So you'll see later that what that will affect is you should not see changes in our 2-week wait in cancer and long waiting performance. What you will see is an extension of patients past their indicative due date for follow-up and the size of the waiting list, which is unfortunate because both of us are heading in the right direction. But having now cancelled many thousands of patients, there will be an impact on that.
Chair, just very quickly. So is it possible to kind of, for the governing body members, just to get some kind of simple outline response that if they haven't had it, I'm just just because this is going to start creeping in the system where people who are out there waiting for appointments are saying, well, it's been put back, and inevitably people become anxious. The more that governors can help represent the information accurately on our behalf, the better it is.
Scott, if you could work with Paul outside the meeting, just do a little governor briefing, just one A4 should do it.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues. Happy with you just scratching your nose or something there, Karen?
No significance at all.
It's like an auction.
Happy to accept the chief exec's report. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on then. And it's a bit of a follow-up to Tony's last point. Lorraine, we move on to the head governor's report, please.
Just take it as read at the moment, please.
Yeah, okay. So we've got it. Any questions at all that anybody wants to ask around governors? No, taking it to the point you've made, Tony. Okay, thank you. And then we'll move on then, 89.1. Thank you, Lorraine. We're on 89.1, maternity safety update. That's 89.1 to 89.3. Heather, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do each report in turn?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll do 89.1 first then, maternity safety update, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll take the report as read and just draw board's attention to the key highlights. Just to flag junior doctors training compliance within the report, we have been struggling with our training compliance for our medics for quite a few months now. We have booked, or to assure board, we have booked all doctors onto all their training for the whole year. The clinicians have been assisted to understand what is required in terms of their training needs analysis. We've put some additional training on. We have asked for surgical care group assistance in getting the anaesthetic training compliance up, because that's significantly below where it needs to be. We do need to recognise the impact of strike action on current compliance levels. It has been escalated to NHS England and the national teams, particularly around the impact of training compliance on things like CNST and the safety agendas as well, and the work streams, because strike action, as it's repeated, is having a roll-on effect. So it has been increased on our risk register in terms of our doctors' training compliance, but there is a plan in place for trajectories, however that may be influenced by future strike action.
CNST.
Yeah, sorry. So that is our clinical scheme for negligence for trusts. So that is our 10 safety standards.
Thank you. Carry on, sorry.
Thank you. No, it's fine. So there's two causes for concern flagging on the maternity dashboard, which should be in your reference pack, and that's regarding bookings done over 9 + 6 days bookings. We've done a review and the causes have been understood, so we've put in an early booking clinic to help bring that KPI back into alignment. The second area flagging on the dashboard for the board's attention is the number of women in labour. So what we're seeing is an increase in the caesarean section rate. We currently have a thematic review being undertaken, and there's no immediate concerns or poor outcomes that have been flagged as part of that initial assessment, but we will have a report around themes of caesarean section, because it should no longer be used as a quality indicator. However, that doesn't mean we don't explore and make sure that the caesarean sections are appropriate. So that review will be available next month. Regarding Entonox suspension at home births, I've met with the NHS England National Estates team and the Health and Safety Executive around resolving the issue of Entonox at home. There is some new national guidance pending. However, I do think I'll be able to resolve that within the next month. There's some further actions for the Entonox working group to work through in terms of occupational hygienist. We received no maternity support programme visit in June and July. The next visit is planned for October, and the sustainability plan for exit of that programme is still in development. So we've got an issue to draw the board's attention to in terms of our tertiary level unit with St Mary's. They are struggling with capacity to receive some of our patients who require fetal medicine expertise. That is resulting in some breach of our key performance indicators around our fetal anomaly screening programme. That has been added to the risk register and it's been escalated to the regional maternity team, and they are looking at additional pathways to help ease the capacity issues in the system. And to provide board assurance that from July, we are now compliant with all 7 immediate and essential actions for the initial Ockenden report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just check with colleagues. Any questions on this safety update that hasn't been done with the subcommittees? Jane?
Heather, and it may not be for him to answer, but do we know if other trusts are have got similar issues with St Mary's around capacity, or are we more affected than others?
No, it's pretty much a regional issue, which is why the regional midwife and obstetrician are looking at additional resource to try and support the whole system.
Brilliant, thank you.
I'm just going to bring Sakthi in before the chief exec. Sakthi?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Heather. My question was around the claims and how do we fare as a trust compared to other trusts, and then is the trend going down or saying the same on the claims?
Okay, can I answer that question when we've done the claims paper?
Okay.
Is that all right? Because that's further down the agenda, so it'll make more sense if I do it at that point. Thank you.
Karen?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Forgive me if these have been responded to through Quality Committee, because I gave apologies this month. But just 3 things is, are we tracking the impact of the changes in early booking clinics? So I know, for example, women who would have been seen in Carnforth are now going to Morecambe. Are we tracking that with health inequalities in mind and access and later implications of a change in location? The second one is the pattern that we're seeing with medical colleagues and training compliance a local issue, or is it regionally and nationally reflected? And the third is 1 to 25.7 midwives to births is really close to the nationally required figure of 1 to 26. So is that fragile? Or are we confident we're going to be able to stay within the 1 to 26 recommendation?
Yeah. So I'll take each question in turn, Karen. So number 1, yes, any impact of the changes in relation to community premises and booking will be tracked. It's part of our quality impact assessment. So yes, we will do that. Regarding the training compliance, it has been escalated to the national team around the concerns of doctors' training compliance, because it is affecting multiple providers across whole systems. So yes, that is a national problem. Regarding the midwife to birth ratio, so it's a requirement that we report that from NICE guidance on midwifery staffing, but that's just the midwifery ratio. It doesn't take into account any other staffing concerns, so it should be used with caution. So if we look at our fill rates, our acuity data to Assure Board, they show our staffing levels are safe. And now I do note that the recent CQC report did flag up about maternity staffing. The reason that is an action is because we have a high reliance on bank and agency. It's not because the staffing levels are not safe. So we've got some more work to do in terms of recruitment, in terms of making those that reliance on bank and agency less so, but our staffing levels are safe. So the midwife to birth ratio should always be used in conjunction with other indicators of safe staffing.
Okay, thank you. Chief Exec.
Thanks, Heather. So Heather, I'm not sure if you were here at the start of the meeting for my brief, but I took the opportunity to kind of reflect the good work, the leadership and the efforts of the WACS leadership team and yourself in particular on outcomes of the CQC report for maternity services and the improved kind of reflections, I think, in their scores in those areas, which in this climate, I think is some going. So thank you to you and the team on the leadership there. You highlighted in your update the National Maternity Support Programme visit in October and us wanting to dovetail, I would use that phrase, the exit criteria and exit and sustainability report alongside our SOF 4 to SOF 3 kind of exit conversation. And you said that's in draft at the moment. How soon could we have sight of the report that we're going to share in October with the national team on exit and sustainability?
I mean, we. What are we now? End of September is probably realistic, Aaron.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm assuming that would come through our cycle normally through the care group quality committee just to get that oversight before we share with the national team.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be sharing with the maternity support programme. It won't actually be shared with the national team until after October. So there's an opportunity to work with the maternity support programme to adapt and amend it so it fits everybody's expectations for exit criteria. So it will be presented to them as a draft. We'll do some tweaks before then it's shared with the national team.
Great. So that's very similar to the process board that we went through with the system improvement board and then into the national review. Thanks, Heather. That's much appreciated.
I
just wanted to add that for record for board is the 10th of October. That will help maybe Heather with the timelines.
Okay, Heather, thank you. I'm looking round. We're happy to accept the maternity safety update. Yeah, okay. And 89.2 incentive scheme year 5 report. We've got the papers, Heather, so lead us to the main highlights, please.
Thank you. So this is the CNST report. So this provides progress against year 5 standards. You will see we declared 7 out of 10 last year. The paper talks about us being on track to achieve possibly 8 out of 10 this year. There is a gap around the transitional care provision. You'll see detailed in the paper, we did receive some pump prime monies to be able to staff the transitional care area as required. I have to draw board's attention to the likelihood of us being able to achieve that in the timescale now has probably passed. So we will be possibly looking at a 7 out of 10 at the moment rather than 8 out of 10 detailed in the paper, because there's purely not enough time to turn around and put a whole staffing model in place before the CNST submission for year 5, which is due in February.
Okay, thank you. Just quick question from me. There's no issue around assurance behind that timescale issue, is there, Heather? You know, why we're not being able to submit it?
I think it's around the funding being allocated for the ongoing costs. And it's quite an ask to set up a whole transitional care service, put out to advert, get the people in post, and to be able to do that by the 1st of February is probably past by now. So it's more about the financial underpinning. But it's really important to draw board's attention to that still needs to be addressed relatively quickly. Otherwise, we will risk being non-compliant for this safety action next year as well, because it talks about expanding the criteria of neonatal patients. And to do that, you need to be able to have the adequate staffing model in place. So it is really important that we still identify the funding for that ongoing staffing model. Okay. So there is a business case. It's just purely CNST standards came out and it was less than a year to be able to get these things into place.
I just wanted to check there's no safety issues or assurance issues. Chief Exec?
Heather's caught my question with her last point, which is we haven't seen the guidance come until it's come out. The business case takes time to develop. We've got this year's financial plans locked, so it's very difficult to secure investment to move this in year. So I think what we need to do is recognise this in the risk register, show that we've got some due diligence. It does still need to come through. I'm just looking at Chris, the IPG oversight and that check and challenge to see what support we can give this year if it's appropriate. But I think this warrants a separate minute of board and probably the IPG oversight for the business case as it comes through, Chris.
I don't know.
Sorry, the investment and I don't know what the P stands for. It's looking at how we review business cases as a group. Thank you, Dave.
Investment priorities group.
Thank you.
Who's Director of Finance supporting the care group.
So this is coming back to board, is that what you're saying, Chief Exec?
It'll follow its due process for business case oversight, Chair, but it's working through the process now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're happy then to note the content of this incentive scheme year 5. Karen?
Just one brief question, if I may, and it relates to the other area of partial compliance on the issue of compensatory rest. And I just wasn't clear from the paper whether the issues surrounding access to compensatory rest are an issue of capacity or an issue of preference and custom and practice, because it feels that the solution might be different. And related to that, I note that I think that the RCOG guidance is guidance about compensatory rest. So how does guidance that clinicians can potentially opt out of sit in the context of our compliance with this CNST standard? How are we going to manage it, put simply?
So it is guidance, but for the CNST standard, the expectation is that we're compliant with that guidance. I suppose in terms of speaking as the Director of Midwifery, I would have to defer that sort of question to the clinical directors and the medical director to be able to answer with any authority on compensatory rest, to be honest, Karen. It's probably something we can bottom out in safety champions that might be useful with the CD there.
Okay, thanks, Heather.
I mean, there's technical advice to all specialties and not just obstetrics, isn't it? So
yeah.
Sometimes you are non-resident on call and are in and doing so much work that you're unable to take your duties next day is probably low. And I don't know if it's written down anywhere, but most people take a pragmatic view and say, actually, can I do a clinic this morning, go home and probably also because of the on-call system that we all grew up with rather than just doing shifts, we were used to working some of that time. So I don't know how we annotate it, but I think pragmatically it's not very common, and also people that will use a common sense but would very much try not to cancel activity if they get it covered or work alongside somebody so that we don't cause patient.
It just feels there's a tension between what is people's considered thought through practice and the CNST requirements, and it just feels some clarity around how we're going to navigate that.
If it goes through the normal committees, but we just take on board some of Karen's thinking here and just consider that as it goes through. Yeah, okay.
And James' point, Chair, about the annotation of it, and just see if we can get something written down that gives a bit of cover for the explanation of where we are with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'll just drop in and rewriting it now, but I don't know if there's anything within our sort of terms and conditions or guidance around job planning that I can't remember off the top of my head will sort of cover that off in many ways.
Yeah, so there is, and within the job planning system, there is the requirement to build in working time regulation compliant rotas. The issue that we've got is the ad hoc unforeseen circumstances that then cause that issue. There will be a way when we kind of implement rostering for the medical workforce for us to have a better oversight of that in more granular detail, but we haven't got the rostering element yet in place for the medical workforce.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we accept then the content of the report? Read the recommendations, thank you. We're conscious of time, colleagues. I do have to keep reminding you, you do have a column on the side of your agenda allocating the minutes to each item. We constantly seem to go above it, so I just ask for some discipline, please. Okay, 89.3, your maternity scorecard, taking into account SACTI's question in this report as well, please, Heather.
Yep. So this is a presentation of the maternity claims scorecard, which is a requirement for CNST Safety Action 9. So it's a request for board to receive as evidence as for CNST. The paper's been previously presented to Quality Committee and the Maternity and Neonatal Board Level Safety Champions. The paper details the number of maternity claims that we have in terms of high value, low value, etc., the cost of the claims and the amount of percentages of the trust claims, and also the total value of the trust claims. It details the top injuries by value, but also the top injuries by volume as well. Just to draw the board's attention that part of the claim scorecard assessment is to do a thematic review against complaints and serious incidents as well for triangulation purposes. And we look at themes and learning that could have made a difference to the outcome, and the paper details that the top elements that we could have amended to possibly change the outcome was around education, training, fetal monitoring and fetal growth surveillance. So board will see assurance in the paper around the action plans in regards to the work streams for improvement and the need to increase fetal surveillance, specialist hours and the associated business case with that. I'm happy to take any questions. Would you just reiterate the previous question for me, please?
Thank you, Chair. No, Heather, it was just to understand, how do we benchmark against other trusts and also the trend of claims in our own trust? Thank you.
Yeah, so it'd be incredibly difficult to compare claims data with other trusts because it depends on the size of the trust, the demographics of the population, etc. So that would be of limited benefit. I think for us, the claims scorecard wants to see a low number of low values, low number of high values. If we look at the difference of our claim scorecard, so we look at a 10-year period, and if we look at the difference between the claim scorecard we did last year and the claim scorecard we did this year, there's a very big difference. So the paper articulates the change. If I just... So this year, maternity claims account for 4% of the total value of claims against the trust. Last year, that was considerably more, but we look at a 10-year block. So what we'll probably find is because the 10-year block last time would have looked very different because we'd have also had our claims and litigation from the Kirkup cases. So the report looks very different to the last one because the 10-year period has obviously moved on. So if you like, there's an improvement not only in the amount of claims that we've had, but also the cost of the claims.
Thank you.
That helps
that's what I was looking for, yeah, because
Yeah.
the cost for the performance dashboard that we have has got quite nuanced way of presenting the special costs, common costs, concern and variation. So that's what I was looking for, but your response answered that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just check with the chair of quality that it's gone through the quality. Yeah.
Okay, all the maternity papers.
Okay, any questions then outside of what quality? Adrian?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just seeking assurance whether there have been any consideration to these claims relating to any EDI profiles. So whether there was a disproportionate prevalence of claims in underrepresented groups. Thank you.
Heather, do we know that?
No, but it's a consideration. So the claims scorecard assessment needs to be done again for presentation at the end of the year. So I'm happy to put that into the next claims scorecard paper.
Colleagues happy with that? Yeah, great. Brilliant. Karen, was that yeah?
It was a real one, yes. Yes, no, just briefly, and appreciating this is historical data, I'm just thinking going forwards, hearing what we've heard about training compliance, whether training compliance may be another important triangulation point alongside the data that this is triangulated with.
Yeah. Please.
Thanks. And just to add to Adrian's request about EDI, maybe it's worth looking if we can then split the data as well with health inequalities, because I think that will be really important going forward.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, colleagues happy to accept those? Yeah, great. And on that note, we're asked to receive the report and approve as evidence for Safety Action 9 for Year 5. Yeah. Heather, thank you as always. Thank you for taking us through the reports. We'll no doubt see you again here next month.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Heather. Okay, colleagues, we'll move on to item 90, University Hospitals of Morecambe Bay's Improvement Plan. Deputy Chief Exec.
Chairman, the key information supporting the briefing and update is included in the reference pack. Just a couple of things I want to point out or highlight from that. Firstly, it includes the formal timeline of meetings and decision points for the Trust's exit from the SOF 4 status that we've been in for the last couple of years, and the headline issues which will be considered alongside the core exit criteria requirements, recognising that quite a bit of time has now passed since the single item system improvement board meeting in April. The presentation also includes the output of the review and risk assessment that we'd scheduled and actually delivered in August, which was designed to make sure that 3 months after the period we were still on track in terms of having achieved the exit criteria, but the continuation of the improvement trajectories. Obviously, we've also, this forms part of our ongoing assurance that we've sustained and or continued those improvements. Also to validate the processes which supported the closure and transition of the recovery support programme work streams into business as usual or the new oversight and governance arrangements, and to make sure that they're operating as intended. The second part of the pack provides some information about the sustainability of those work streams. So there are sustainability reports of the work streams that operated through that programme. So we have set out, as I said, the process and timeline for consideration of the Trust exit from Segment 4 of the System Oversight Framework. That timeline runs to the 23rd of October, which is the anticipated date we have for the national meeting. We have also described both the process which has been applied to assess and manage any risks to the achievement of the exit criteria since the system improvement meeting. And we set out the issues that we identified, the actions that are being taken where necessary. We have shared this information with NHSE colleagues, formally through the Improvement and Assurance Group meeting, which replaced the System Improvement Board as the External Oversight and Assurance Forum. This route, through this route and from discussion at the Gateway Review meetings, which we reinstated with ICB and NHSE colleagues, in respect to the assessment we've made, there have been no specific issues which have been raised with us associated with the achievement of the exit criteria at this stage. And NHSE colleagues are currently preparing their reports to support the process that I set out at the start of the pack. Our ongoing work includes a review of the alignment of our governance and assurance frameworks and the Transformation Improvement Board. We received an update on this work at the executive team meeting yesterday, and we've got an important session with care groups later today, which will directly inform that process. Looking forward, we're working with system partners now to prepare draft exit criteria for SOF 3, and we are planning to bring this in draft to the board in October. The board will also be aware that the Trust's enforcement action undertakings are being reviewed as part of this process at this time. Based on the position reported by the Trust and discussions with system partners, we would expect updated undertakings to be issued at the end of this process.
Okay, thank you. Clear, concise. Any questions, Sarah?
Thank you. I have 3.
actually. Thank
You're
you.
all doing this. You're putting your hand up and got one and tripling it, but go on.
I could do it 3 times. Thank you. I really welcome this report actually. But one of the things that struck me is it doesn't always feel like we have full visibility around the transformation and improvement work. So I've really welcomed this report and the detail that's included in the reference pack, and that's then, I guess, prompted my questions. So first of all, I think it's good to hear that broadly it looks like we're on track. Really positive to hear that. On page 53 of the reference pack, under point 3, which is around demonstrable, robust organisation-wide governance, there's reference to the recent cluster of never events, which of course we have seen reported at board, and indication of increasing rate and severity of serious incidents, and the action around that to understand the underlying issues around those. And what I'm looking for is some assurance actually that as that understanding is built, that's something we'll see at quality committee, so we can understand if there's something we need to work through. That's my first question.
In terms of the governance and oversight of that, after the last meeting, I met with chairs of the committees. We're just putting together the map to make sure that everything that's identified and it maps through to a committee and an identified assurance process, and those meetings are being put in now to do that. So absolutely, that's the expectation.
Great, and that actually answers my third question, which was actually about how this links to assurance. So that's really helpful. So my second question was just relating to, I think it's point 5, which is then on page 54, which is around, no, it's not, sorry, it's point 4, which refers to fundamentals of care. For example, so pressure ulcers and VTE assessment, which again, we keep under review at quality committee. I'm really conscious we also see the safe staffing reports at quality committee on a monthly basis, and that's showing us there aren't hotspots relating to safe staffing, but we have got wards which are fully staffed or which are sort of looking all right on the dashboard, but where we do have higher incidences of complaints, pressure ulcers, falls, but are nonetheless not showing us not meeting safe staffing requirements. And so there's a question for me, and we're keeping that under review at quality committee, but there is a question for me around triangulation of, is that safe staffing actually, if we are then seeing sort of patterns around potentially fundamentals of care points and complaints.
Yeah. Is that a question
That's a
or is
question.
that an observation?
It's an observation that there does seem to be a pattern, and we discussed that at the last quality committee, and we are keeping it under review, but I think there is a question around at what point do we actually, looking from a sort of assurance that at a point in time we're going to actually then review that staffing, I guess, and look at the impact around potentially around fundamentals.
We review safe staffing on a twice yearly basis. So in terms of the specific.
When's the next one? When's the next safe staffing review?
The biannual one I brought to board in May, so the next one will be around November.
Yeah.
December. So I'm happy to take that, Sarah.
Yeah, if I could just then we consider that as part of that.
Yeah, I'll go quality and then December.
Yeah, that would be great.
Chair, I mean, I think we will have had a number of months of looking at the dashboard.
Yeah.
When we receive that, and so I think we will actually be able to then reflect on how useful the dashboard's been as then associated with that, because I'm keen that we don't just receive papers actually in the end when we reflect on haven't really told us anything.
No, exactly.
And that's the danger. We can feel falsely assured by if we're not careful, because the dashboard's in the end not giving us the information we need, because it's too subtle. That's what I worry about. The information may be too subtle to be picked up by a dashboard.
Chief Exec.
Can I just explore the question? So is this saying, so in looking at the information the quality committee is looking at, one of the hypotheses that we put forward in triangulation is the correlation between poorer quality of care, poorer outcomes and safe staffing levels? And are we saying that we're still seeing perennial quality safety issues on wards where it looks like safe staffing? Is that the question?
Exactly that,
okay,
yeah.
so I think then the response is slightly different. Sorry, I was just trying to get to the root cause of the question. So when we talk about looking at our IPR, where we've got continual 7 points on the data chart to say actually there's no amount of our improvement work here that's ever going to get it to somewhere, it would trigger something different. So I think the question is the fundamentals of care programme of improvement identifying the root causes well enough to make sure that those wards that require additional support are getting it in the right way. So if our hypothesis was, if we just focus on safe staffing and the alignment of the improvement work, all wards will get to an accredited level of X. But it looks like some circumstances where that's not true. So I think it's some kind of curiosity as to what's happening in those wards then, and is it a leadership issue, is it a process issue? So I think the ask is, yes, the overall assurance on safe staffing reports and triangulation, but for those wards where that hypothesis doesn't look like it's mapping out, I think we need to do a little bit more focused work.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'll pick it up.
Yeah. Great. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
that.
Sorry, my question wasn't quite
No,
as
no.
clear, Chris.
I think linked to that, Chair, and you can say is that the pressure ulcer data for next month, I think, and it talks about this in the IPR, is actually going to start reporting about whether there were, can't remember the exact term, Tabitha, but whether there were failures of
Avoidable harm.
avoidable harm. So at the moment, we just get this broad figure, and, and we don't know, well, other things that we could have done differently or not. And I think that's absolutely crucial to this point, Aaron, that we need to get that sort of level of understanding. Not always at Quality Cube, but somewhere that level of understanding and those questions need to be asked and answered. Good luck. Thank you. Aaron?
No, it's related to this and picks up the point Hugh made there about the nuances that are important for us to be able to understand that aren't easily represented on a dashboard or an IPR. And it feels, you know, when we think about numbers of staff not being a direct correlation with quality of care, in essence, the issue I think for us to think about and focus on how we better capture it fundamentally relates to clinical standards and standards of, and it's how we capture that in a really meaningful way.
And the chief executive and then yourself as deputy chief executive.
So as we continue our journey as a board on using data and IPR to inform assurance or otherwise, we're going to come up about these questions of levels of detail that inform a response to what that information is telling us or not. My ask is that we don't ask for deep dives or addendums to dashboards or extra information in those dashboards, because we'll end up with a behemoth that we struggle then to manage. So my ask of assurance committee chairs and those committees is to make sure we ask the question the right way and take a way of answering the question rather than introducing more and more data into the dashboards or additional reports. So I think there's something in the dialogue with executive leads and service leads and the assurance committees on answering questions well, rather than asking for additional information.
Yeah. Making data count. That's the issue. It might be useful if we have a subcommittee chairs meeting. It might be useful if some execs want to join us in a meeting so we can discuss this in more detail, because I support Aaron in this, because what we're trying to do as we go into business as usual is actually reduce the volume that we're getting through to the most pertinent data that we can triangulate. So it might be useful if the execs talk to the subcommittee chairs collectively to just say, yeah, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, that's a proposal that we discussed after the last board meeting in terms of how we would, in terms of how assurance would be through the committees, that we would need a collective committee chair conversation at some point because of the number of places that this touches. And just very quickly on this point, the discussion supports the action that we logged point 4 on page 54, which was the source of Sarah's question, is that we identified that the improvement trajectories that we assess our performance against now need to move on in the way that we've just described. So the criteria that we'd applied into the exit criteria was sort of so far, but it for exactly this reason that didn't work for the next phase. So that it fits with this conversation.
Okay. Okay, Chris, taking on board what you just said, we're asked to note the current process is underway via NHSE to review the soft segmentation. Yeah.
Soft.
Yeah. System Oversight Framework.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask me the next one now. The activities underway to obtain assurance that the improvement undertaken by the RSP work stream.
RSP, Chair.
RSP, Secretary, you wrote this.
Recovery Support Programme.
Okay, accept that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good questions. Right, we'll move on. Deputy Chief Exec, thank you for that. So 91.1 and 91.2 are related. Chief Nursing Officer, you're going to take us through the Patient Safety Incident Report Policy, known as the PSIRF. Yeah, we've got it, and the plan as well. We've also welcoming Angela. Hi, Angela. We've noticed you've been sitting there patiently. I assume you're being called in on these items. I'll follow protocol. Chief Nurse first.
Thank you, Chair. So the patient safety incident response framework is that new framework that we are now using to respond to our incident reporting in line with the new national patient safety strategy. So listening to the discussions we've been having, some of it, will be supported through our PSIRF, or Patient Safety Incident Response Policy, which I'm going to introduce Angela, who will talk us through the policy. But before Angela comes, I just want to triangulate that in our last board in August, we had the patient safety champions who came to talk about PSAFE, to talk about the priorities that as an organization we are going to focus on. So we've got 5 priorities. So these 2 papers will outline the policy and the plan in terms of how we implement and deliver PSAFE within the organization.
Before I bring Angela in, I'll just check with you, Caroline. There's no conflict of interest in this item for you. Caroline, Carrie Cobb. Carrie? There's no.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, over to you.
Over to Angela. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tabitha. So today we're here to present the Patient Safety Incident Response Framework paper, the policy and the plan. Today that is for board approval, having previously been through our implementation group, the trust management group, and also to the Quality Assurance Committee. I'll take the papers as read and just walk through a couple of bits and pieces that are key things for the benefit of board. As discussed, all organisations need a patient safety incident response plan. That is not easy to say. It's a PSIRP in brief, and also that policy to introduce the framework by autumn 2023, with the intention that this is fully embedded as a new way of working by April 24. In development of this policy and plan, we've had extensive engagement across the organisation, followed national guidance and templates, but also best practice from early adopters, so those who've been there and done this, but also those that are developing new ideas whilst considering how best do we apply this to the patients and staff within UHMBT. As we've worked through, we've linked in with stakeholders as well, thinking around the people like CQC, coroners, all those people that will be impacted by that to come forward with the best way forward, adopting the principles that are really carefully set out by the national team in terms of this. Those principles mean that fundamentally this is a real shift in doing things differently, which is one of the most significant changes in patient safety in the last 10 years. Ultimately, the result will be fewer lengthy investigations, but actually really focusing on the maximisation of learning to benefit the organisation, the patients we serve and the staff that we're within there. This links, as colleagues will know, to the CQC report, where there is that focus in learning and developing that learning, but also thinks around all the different things around systems thinking, specific training, having colleagues that are skilled to do the things that we're asking them to do. And across the trust, we have actually rolled out for all staff to do bespoke training at level 1 and 2 to ensure that we've actually adapted that. It's applying new tools and techniques which have been developed with care groups to ensure that we're following best practice and introducing that. And we've done that over the last 12 months as well. There's detailed planning and collaboration as a fundamental principle, but put my teeth back in, principle within PSIRF, and engagement is also a key factor. We've, in terms of the development of that, there are 5 key priorities that the PSIRF, the Patient Safety Incident Response Plan has outlined, which are detailed in PAC, which have been developed with the colleagues in the organisation, and also we've really focused in on experts within that subject matter as well to come up with the best ways that we can identify for the next 12 to 18 months the opportunities to learn within the organisation. This has gone through detailed governance oversight, but also extensive consultation with colleagues to ensure that we're absolutely managing that forward. The plan is here for your review and for your approval. Following this, it will go to the ICB for their quality committee sign-off, which is a fundamental part of that, with programme delivery commencing with a soft launch on the 2nd of October, which will focus on learning responses. Key risks in relation to us actually implementing that is a shift in culture, which is why the extensive engagement has been really important, because we've got to ensure that everyone is aware of how we're going to move forward to ultimately result in psychological safety when we're looking at these events, which we recognise are challenging for colleagues to be involved within. I'm happy to take any questions, and over to you guys.
Thank you. Now, what you've described, Angela, just to summarise, is the policy. Policy will then go to the ICB for review and approval. We will talk in the next item about the plan. So that
yes.
So colleagues, any comments? Are we happy to approve the written documents? Yeah.
Just to confirm, Chair, that we discussed this in detail at the Quality Committee, and we actually had the opportunity to discuss it with Sarah, who was the actual author of both the plan and the Sarah Rigby, not Sarah Rigby. I was looking at Sarah Rigby, who was the, I mean, she does lots of things, but she doesn't write policies and plans of this ilk. So we've actually considered this with the reports, with the policy and the plans author. So I don't have to repeat that for the next item.
Okay, thank you.
Forgive me again if this was discussed at quality. I'm just thinking of the relationship between patient safety incidents and inequalities. And we know that people who experience inequalities also experience more likelihood of safety incidents. Does the policy and then the plan that follows on take full account of that, and has that also informed its consultation and engagement?
It has. So if I can give you some assurance there, Karen, one of the things that we did when we looked at priorities was we also looked at things that were fundamental to terms of reference that needed to be in all our investigations. And we recognise health inequalities as a key thing that the organisation and nationally we need to be aware of. So it is a terms of reference within every investigation to assess whether health inequalities are involved both for patients and staff, as well recognising those equality characteristics to ensure that we're being fair in relation to staff and proportionate with responses there, but also from patient perspective as well.
Thank you. Okay, then we accept the approve the patient safety incident response policy prior to its submission to the ICB. Thanks, Angela. Are you now going to take us to the plan?
I am, yes. So the policy sets out the approach and how we're going to maintain those systems. The plan is the how. So the plan walks us through the plan for the next 12 to 18 months. It includes details around our learning responses, which we have been implementing over the last 12 months as well, with support from the ICB to ensure that colleagues are in a prepared place. So when it's not such a massive transition into PSERF as we go forward. So colleagues within the room will be familiar with things like round tables, thematic reviews, those sorts of things that have really been a benefit in things like our Never events and analysis like that. The plan isn't a permanent rule. It's not something that cannot be changed, but it is pretty much set as it is, with the capability for us to be flexible and consider specific circumstances in which patient safety issues and events can occur. We're really mindful of events at Countess of Chester. We're mindful of the national position and risk in relation to maternity services in relation to this plan. And we know that nationally, by following day-to-day the forums that exist, that may change. And so we're getting updates on that, and we will make sure that that is included and reflected into our plan as we progress, subject to board approval today. Again, happy to take any questions in relation to that plan.
And I'll just check you've said it. This has gone through quality as well. Okay.
Could I just make a brief comment? I thought that the way that the plan was structured and that flexibility that you referred to is probably going to be its key strength, isn't it, to deal with any type of scenarios? So I'd just like to just identify that really and just praise that. It's something which I'd like to see applied to more planning documentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, you?
Just a general point on these two items, Chair. I mean, it's the key question for us as a board going forward will be whether we see a change in the way that those incidents that require detailed investigation, quite rightly identify these, get that, but really in more general terms, how much we move from this process of going through this rigorous thing that I remember from sitting on the SI panel, that the process being important, to actually for the focus being on learning and transferring that learning across the organisation. I mean, that's been a key issue for us through some of the key investigations we've experienced over the past few years. But and this should help us move that into a business as usual type approach, which is the national approach. And so I think a rain check, as we do rain checks on this in 6 to 12 months, will be to ask that question. Has it moved us away from just this focus on process and ticking all the boxes and making everything been done in the right order, and to actually that there is much more of an understanding and focus on learning, and not necessarily having to go through the absolute detail of stuff, but to quickly get to the point, there are the things that we need to learn from. Have we learned from them? So I think that as we review this, in which we will in probably 6 months' time, when it should have been fully embedded, as I understand, Angela, by next April, there'll be a checkpoint just after that. Well, is it fully embedded, and what are the initial learnings and changes that we've seen? So I would encourage us to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Liz?
Thanks. And we all say it, that we've learned from things, but yes, we can learn from it, but does it change?
Yeah.
And so it's how do we then monitor that things have actually changed? So where are the targets? Where's the actual hard data? So what are the things that we're going to look at and say, actually, those 5 priorities, so what changes has that made for patients? So have we got those firm metrics in place now to say in 12 months?
Angela?
So the firm metrics aren't in place at this point in time in relation to that. The methodology of how we're going to analyse that is and what our starting point is, but the firm outcome as what that percentage will look like isn't there to say this is what our target is, but we will have that to be able to feedback and say this has been the progress that has happened across there, which is the advice we've taken from other early adopters in relation to that, Liz, in terms of best way forward for us to do that.
That will give us a baseline for that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, based on that then, are we happy to accept the plan as it goes towards the ICB for review and approval? Yeah. Angela, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Colleagues, it's 10:46. Shall we stop for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
10:56, back into it. Thank you.
No, it's speaking. Just need it.